Today I will narrate my entire Assassin's Creed Valhalla journey with 81 hours of content in just one video. If it's your first time here, you may not believe me, but unlike Cyberpunk 2077, I won't disappoint. That disappointment is actually saved for my unborn children. Like any good story should begin, I started as a little boy named Eivor, performing dances fit for a prostitute at a brothel. My dance routine must have been top-notch because all the clan leaders pledged their allegiance to me shortly after. However, the party was abruptly interrupted. You see, the most exciting things in life are short-lived. Well, that's what I tell my wife every night anyways. Like a good son, Eivor disobeyed his mother's orders to run away, opting instead to struggle to lift a sword, the same as I do every morning on the way to the bathroom. To this day, I'm not sure why he needed a weapon, just to witness his father die a coward and watch his mother's spine get readjusted. Eivor then fell onto a frozen lake and became possessed. I'm guessing the trauma of being an exotic dancer at such a young age is what caused it. Either way, the possession was strong enough to allow him to Judy chop this wolf into a shattered oblivion. This was the origin of my nickname, Wolf-Kissed. I must have broken a Viking commandment with the wolf sacrifice though, because I was then sent to the future where I was a prisoner. But fear not, this is not my first time being shackled and sent to my knees. All I had to do was shout my safe word, and then I MacGyvered my way out and delivered the bodies to the god of sea. My tutorial on AC Valhalla officially started, and afterward, I was able to customize Eivor. I went with a Conor McGregor and meth addict look, topped off with the Mike Tyson face tattoo. I want my enemies to really ask themselves, what street corner trash can was I born out of before they attempt to decapitate me? Speaking of addiction, it was shortly after that I found myself in a hazy hut guzzling down some weird jungle juice with a hippie-dressed lady who most likely was a witch. The drink I willingly consumed caused me to have a vision where I witnessed faceless women working looms. Down the snowy path I found my brother's severed arm. Not really sure why the blind woman didn't see it. The effects of the drink eventually wore off, so I reported my findings to the witch doctor. She told me I would betray my brother. I guess she thought that was a more important topic than the fact that he had become a paraplegic. I headed back to the motherland, where I also replaced the Mike Tyson tattoo with a raccoon eyeshadow for no good reason. Before I left for a better start with my adopted brother and clan leader Sigurd, I had to make a choice. I could leave resources for our father and motherland, or I could take them for ourselves to use at our new humble abode. And I think it's pretty obvious what any raccoon-eyed Nordic exotic dancing warrior who kisses wolves would choose to do. After getting away with domestic burglary, I then ran away from home without saying goodbye like a true degenerate. Motivated by wise words from Sigurd, we completed our journey and finally set foot on Ravensthorpe, our new home in England. Throughout the open world are tons of points of interest that are farms, towns, and monuments. Within them, they have chests that have loot used to upgrade your gear. Besides main quests and boss fights, this is the thing you will be doing the most of, searching for chests and doing mini puzzles while clearing ways of enemies to reach them, some heavily guarded, like this one. Because the 40 other villagers here at Ravensthorpe were more useless than thin toilet paper, I was in charge of finding the supplies needed to build different buildings for our camp. I started with the blacksmith, where I could upgrade my gear as I collected more wealth, and then I built a barracks. Building the barracks was a waste, as I ended up never using it the entire playthrough. Just like my wife does, I spent our entire life savings on useless crap for Ravensthorpe. So it was time to head out with my men and bring home the bacon. When we approached our target, we stormed the beach like Normandy, slaying everyone in sight like brutal beasts. Once a majority of the village was permanently asleep, I was able to raid the supplies. When I bursted into this church to loot, a handful of chili bowl cut priests scattered like roaches as if I just caught them exploiting their people for sensual acts. Sigurd directed me to talk to his wife after. Randvi, whose entire life purpose was to just stand by this map and let me know who I should align with next. And this is the main plot of the story, to go around to different kingdoms and do them a small favor, and in turn they would allow me to kill all of their men while consuming England's land. It's a pretty fair trade in my opinion. Once Randvi gave me my mission, I had one more thing to have revealed to me. So after I did what I was told like a good little boy, this guy revealed to me that there's a secret group called the Order. Killing Zealots and members of the Order would unlock more information about the other members as well. I also got a bit overwhelmed about all of this because I shortly after had a mental breakdown on this roof. While I was out and about minding my own business by committing petty theft against the locals, I accidentally ran into one of the Order's Zealots. Unfortunately for me, this guy was 70 levels above me. I knew this for two reasons. One, the red skull next to his health bar, and also when he two-tapped me into Viking hell. After my unfortunate demise, I still lacked logical decision-making skills because I decided to give it another shot. As predicted, he nearly killed me instantly, but fear not, I have above average reaction time for a boomer, so I was able to get away. Easy game. Shortly after, I infiltrated a local town that was infested with enemy scum. Like a three-legged cat, I used the rooftops to maneuver unseen. From here, I was able to free fall onto my target, using him as a momentum repulsion device. Unfortunately, each human device is limited to one use, as the effects can be, bone-crushing. Then, like a scene out of Harry Potter, we magically appeared in a dark area alone, staring eye to eye. Just me and my enemy. Oh, and the cuckoo over here, Odin. And if killing my enemy wasn't enough of an adrenaline rush, you actually get to do it a second time. I just would yell abracadabra and touch them and then poof. If I could only do the same thing to my neighbor's pet dog. As I roamed the open world collecting new weapons and bronze bars by clearing out random caves, I heard what every man during his midlife crisis wants to hear. A damsel in distress shouting eggs over and over. Without a shred of concern, I answered the call like a superhero ready to save the world. To much disappointment and confusion, this old hag was less worried about getting out of her cell and more worried about me getting her viper eggs. Look, I'm into a lot of kinky stuff, but let's be clear here. I draw the line at grandmas and snake eggs. However, this quest did pique my interest and I wanted to see it through. Like a Spartan surrounded by 100 enemies, I razzled and dazzled my way through the snake pit. After finding enough eggs, I've returned them to the lady. I expected at least a thank you and, at the most, maybe some sort of item. Instead, this old timer gave me the good old face fart as a parting gift. I shit you not. After some dilly-dallying, it was time to get down to serious business. Eivor's brother Sigurd ran off to try to create some more alliances nearby. This is where the sons of the famous Ragnar Lodbrok jump into the story. You ever wonder how a child raised by a clan of cannibals would turn out in the end? Well, that's exactly what I think of every night as my beautiful face hits the pillow. Eivor, not to be mistaken with Eivor, is exactly how I imagine how that child would end up. I linked up with Sigurd and the Lodbroks at a camp right outside a fortress that we planned on attacking. At this camp, I met Ceolbert, the son of Ceolwulf II, and soon to be king of Mercia. Basically, this kid was a trust fund baby, and I'm sure his dad thinks he's a disappointment too. After Judy chopping my way through the fortress like a 10-year-old who got a hold of nunchucks for the first time, we finally arrived to Burgred's den. Unfortunately, it seems like he ratted his way out of the area. You see, Ceolwulf needed Burgred captured in order to become king. As the search for Burgred continued with more attacks, I really began to learn the level of degeneracy Eivor was at. Like Liam Neeson in Taken, I was ready to do anything I could to find this bastard Burgred. So I hunted his wife like she was game meat. After defeating her guards, I tied the hog up and made my way back to camp to show off my prize. His wife squealed like the pig she was and gave up her husband's location. I then penetrated the camp and entered the crypt just like I do with my wife, like nothing was there. Burgred had locked himself in a room, but I made quick work with the guards that held the key, and finally, face to face with Mr. Elusive, I could tell he would be light work. So without using a weapon, I demasculated him, tied him up, and then I took him to his wife at the Viking camp. With Burgred dethroned, Ceolwulf became the king of Mercia, and the Lodbroks pledged to be in our alliance and help defeat England. The worst part about this, though, was I somehow was just given responsibility over Ceolbert, the king's kid. I guess he hasn't heard about my wolf-kissing days. He's gonna regret this decision later. Oh well. The next potential alliance was through a lady named Soma. She was a bit more needy than the previous clan. She wanted me to save her 3 advisors, which I did. It involved me playing some WWE SmackDown with some wolves, cooking my enemies, and fighting the most annoying soldier in the game, pikemen. Them and their stupid long sticks annoyed the hell out of me. But eventually, all 3 wimpy-ass advisors were saved and returned to their master like the pets they were. But hey, I gained a new alliance member in return. After locking in even more alliances, AC Valhalla started taking a weird turn. Things began to get a little bit more creepier and mythical. I knew it wasn't going to end well when a curse drew me into a weird cave with a creepy burning man and a body part totem pole. Guess I know where to send Sigurd if he actually ends up losing his arm like in my vision. That curse must have really got to me, because not long after that I took out my anger on this priest. And then I went outside, sat on a bench to have my midlife crisis while this town burned down. A bit insecure about myself, I took a slumber with my gear on and refused to use the covers just to try to show my clan that I'm a manly man. And in order to figure out those insecurities, I met with the witch doctor to drink that jungle juice. And this is where things got crazier than 2 nut jobs locked inside a loony bin. Viking mythology became more intertwined with the story. It is here where I got to run across the longest bridge in video game existence, and also where I fought through the blue ball giants, and where I died, and got to run across the bridge over and over until I didn't die. What a phenomenal gaming experience. Eventually, I defeated the case of blue balls and met up with Loki and a guy named the Builder. Make a short story long, basically, the giants were coming through a magic gate portal thingy, and the builder suggested he had a way to repel their attack. So he was going to build a demonstration to prove he was capable of it. I then awoke from the wet dream back at Ravensthorpe, happy to be sailing and singing shanties with the boys again. Then, for a good while, it was just about hacking, slashing, and creating friends. I would go to Ranvian or Juicy Map, pick a clan, and then head that way to do whatever pointless task they needed me to do. And as you could guess, it usually involved killing people, sometimes by accident. To give you an example, this priest was attempting burglary and asked for my help. The balls on this dude. But I obliged him and swung my sword. I ended up being just a tad off the mark, though. I was a man on the grind. I began to forge an unbeatable force of alliances in crazy Vikings. I joined forces with London after assassinating this bad lad. Then, like White Goodman in Dodgeball, I dodged these fire arrows to secure East Anglia. I also teamed up with the polar bear and then banged my brother's wife while he was gone. I officially had fulfilled the prophecy of betraying my brother. I guess you can say I fulfilled Ranvi as well. The next alliance was formed with this chick named Folke, where she led us on a wild goose chase for a damn stone. Then it was time for more jungle juice and visions that I would not understand. I wish when I got drunk, I became the god of gods like Eivor. Instead, I just become the king of the porcelain throne inside my own bathroom. The builder had requested water from this well in order to build the demonstration of the shield he had been working on. After an embarrassingly lengthy amount of time trying to solve this simple puzzle by trying to get the beam to reflect to the correct point, I unsealed the well. During his demonstration, I had a little fun and decided to play dead on the edge of the shield, hiding in the blood of my enemies. But, just like my investment portfolio, things took a turn for the worst. The shield failed and I nearly died just trying to get up from my shenanigans. Luckily, I held them off long enough until the shield came back online. Believe me or don't, this builder dude was blackmailing me into pimping out the Queen of Asgard, or he wouldn't even build the damn thing. I can't blame him though, she was a hottie. The gods all had a meeting to consult each other on whether we should pimp out the queen for the good of the kingdom. The queen did have strong feelings about this, but I've got 99 problems and she ain't one. After that meeting, I immediately found myself fighting a wolf that had been stalking me more than yesterday's one-night stand. If there's one thing I learned about Viking mythology during this playthrough, it's that Vikings have a weird obsession with wolves, because this one was actually Loki's son. What a freak. Anyways, we caged up his son like the animal he was to prevent future stalking. The game also slapped me right in the face with the plot twist at this point. This Bob the Blackmailer dude morphed into a massive blue ball giant, forcing me to shake and bake until I defeated the monster. I was so over this hellhole for the time being, so I woke up back in England and met up with that kid I was supposed to be babysitting, but have completely ignored this entire time. His clan had been setting up an alliance with King Rodri and the Bretons. We all met up in a church and the peace talks went about as smooth as the operations at Chernobyl did. But because Eivor had a hate boner for the Bretons, he just marched in and sliced and diced the king's brother, forcing us to fight our way out. Not too long after those shenanigans, Chelbert went missing, and I'm not too sad to report that I found him dying in a cave. He was stabbed with a nice-looking dagger made by the Bretons. Not gonna lie, I was a bit bummed I didn't get to stab him myself. As predictable as a children's book, we went to war with the Bretons to get revenge for the trust fund kid. We busted through the front gate like explosive diarrhea, and made our way to the king as we annihilated his soldiers. Eivor and I kidnapped the king and took him to the top of a nearby mountain. At Eivor's suggestion, we gave him the good old blood eagle. Then the crazy bastard openly admitted to some Littlefinger Game of Thrones trickery. Turns out he had killed Chelbert with the dagger in order to trigger a war. This caused a little tussle between him and I. In the end, the maniac got what was coming to him though. Suddenly, Folke and my brother Sigurd had gone missing. After searching, I eventually found Folke. She was actually a top member of that secret group called the Order and was holding him hostage. I followed clues that would lead me to Sigurd. Then I unwrapped my brother's arm like it was a present on Christmas morning. This crazy chick can really play some mind games. I gotta hand it to her. Like a bad case of swamp ass, everything continued to get much worse. My own advisor even challenged my loyalty, so I killed him for the good of the clan. I mean, that's one less muffin man eating our food rations. I now decided I needed a bit of me time. So I spent some time exploring the countryside. Here I got to enjoy a raunchy show of a couple being romantic in public. Eventually I found folk in a fort and it was time to save my brother. I was so determined to get Sigurd that I was unbothered being cooked while trying to breach this gate. Me and my right-hand man Basim made it to a church and fended off this burning giant. If it isn't painfully obvious, I had a tough relationship with fire in this game. Finally I went face to face against Folke. She tried using the darkness to her advantage, but little did she know I had Spidey sense powers that revealed her location. She tried running away one last time, but my men surrounded her. She must have been really defeated because she just stared at me confused when I was playing dead. This was my favorite ability in the game, but boredom came quickly, so I rose and I did what I do best. I disappointed another woman. We then went off to see Odin in Never Ever Land. She claimed Sigurd was some divine being. Then my brother showed up himself, but much bigger. He should ease up on the roids, I think. As usual, I continued the work my brother was supposed to be doing by going around and locking in even more alliances. Through my entire journey, I was collecting these stone tablets as well. Began to wonder if they were even worth the trouble, but I luckily found a secret cave that led me on a parkour adventure. I don't think I missed a single jump. Once I made it to the end, I put the tablets in these pillars and unlocked the Excalibur sword, one of the few legendary weapons in the game. First thing I wanted to do with it was cut my cooked chicken with it, but this guy wouldn't even let me have a chicken. I think he thought it was his pet or something. But besides cutting up my food, it actually cooks human meat with its high energy as I slice through enemies. Now that's efficiency. It was about time to finish what we had started. But before that, I had to take one more swig of the liquid courage and get rid of the blue men once and for all in this fantasy Candyland. As usual, I did everything myself and went behind enemy lines. But they were actually friendly with me at first. Hell, they even let me join in on this massive feast where I got to play drinking games just like I was back in college. But then my bud Loki had to backstab me. Remember his son was a wolf, right? Well, apparently this guy is a real freak because he was getting it in with these blue giants as well. And since he was mad at me for caging his animal of a son, I had to fight this beastly thing. On my way yet to another magical well, I fought a Jupiter-sized bear made of ice, which was guarded by Mr. Loki. That backstabbing blue ball wolf mating creature wanted to kill me, so I did what I had to do. At this well was what I had always dreamed of, a massive old talking head. In order to seek everything I desire, I had to sacrifice my eye. I mean, the dude said I could have anything I want, so I did it. Out goes the eye, and in goes my wildest dreams and fantasies. I awoke in the crazy witch hut again, only to be given more very vague answers to my questions from the attention-seeking witch, who definitely knows the true answers, but doesn't want to tell me in order to remain relevant in the storyline. There was only one thing left to do in order to close the afterlife part of this story. You see, there was a certain demon child that needed to be put down. Not sure if you know, but children grow up, and incredibly fast apparently, because Loki's wolf son was as big as the fat guy that I always get stuck next to on airplanes. I let him bite this dude's arm off, and then it was my turn to fight. This was one of the harder boss fights in the game for me, and it wasn't because this wolf had the ability to go around like a worm or throw smoke bombs repeatedly like some Call of Duty player. It was difficult because once I nearly had him beat, the wolf just walked off the ledge and peaced out. So Loki's son was forever glitched in the rock below the mountain. Mission accomplished, I guess. Sigurd hadn't been acting right since being tortured by his mistress. He begged me to go on one last adventure with him. This entire time, I thought Sigurd sailed me all the way back to Norway and led me up this snowy mountain just to kill me for sleeping with his wife, who he ignored this entire time. But instead, he led me into a sacred cave. At the end of this cave, we got fondled by alien limbs that sent us to another dimension. This dimension was actually Valhalla. Anything I dreamed of and wanted could happen here. Like a stuck record player, I woke up over and over to watch my brother lose his arm again and again, and for the occasional arrow to strike my eye. Not sure why Eivor complained and didn't want to stay here though. What more could you ask for? This was great pleasure. In the end, Eivor decided that he needed more in life than eye removal surgery every time he wakes up. So he left Valhalla. But Mr. Cuckold himself, Odin, had other plans. Odin had cheat codes enabled because I spent the next 15 minutes trying to kill him, only to realize he had no health bar, and the way to leave was to simply just drop my axe so he couldn't pull me back with his powers. Hey look, I swear I'm not a meth baby, but maybe I did fall on my head a few times growing up. I then left Valhalla and got removed from the alien probe, where I found my right-hand man Basim there, except he was holding my brother hostage. This is also where I found out that I was actually Odin the entire time, which threw me for a loop. I probably should have been focused on saving Sigurd, but all I kept thinking about was that I had been cucking myself this entire game. Anywho, I chased Basim around the alien lab thingy where he did some unfair antics like blocking my onslaught of arrows like he was Jason Bourne, but with a little peer pressure I convinced him to get probed as well. While the aliens performed the cavity search, me and Sigurd had a heart-to-heart nearby. Sigurd told me he knows I was giving his wife the old hot beef injection, but he wasn't mad at all. He just vowed to go back to Norway and let me lead Ravensthorpe myself. In the end, Basim grew old in that black abyss next to a magic tree. Eventually, a modern-day human named Layla found her way there. Basim used her to get out and was able to lead the simulation. Yep, that's right. These 81 hours of gameplay were all just a frickin' simulation, and Mr. Basim here just left it to go spin in my grave. Then to add insult to injury, he was able to hop in and out of the simulation and become Eivor himself. Guess that means he is now doing the romantic tango with Randvi instead of me, making him the only winner in Assassin's Creed Valhalla. And that is the story of my Assassin's Creed Valhalla journey. I will see you in the next one.